Mike, as we get to the Bears, and we'll get on the field in a second, but I wanted to ask you about the stadium story, which is never ending. But we've got the Bears now looking at Northwest Indiana, and we had news this week of the Chiefs now moving to Kansas, across the state line, but for a sweetheart deal with the state of Kansas. How, if at all, does that affect the Bears stadium?
I think it underscores the reality when you have two different states with two different political realities, two different levels of willingness to contribute significant money for the building of a stadium. Now that the Bears have pulled Indiana into the mix, and by all appearances, Indiana has interest, that's a way to either get Illinois to wake up or get Indiana to come to the table. And I haven't had time to really delve into this, but I saw somebody commenting on the term sheet between the Chiefs and Kansas, and it's as sweet of a sweetheart deal for the Chiefs as you can imagine. So that's how it works. That's how stadium politics and stadium business is done. If there's a current location that isn't willing to do what the team wants, the question becomes, is there another state? And for these teams that are hovering around near a border, it allows you to move without moving. Because the Bears can't leave Chicago, but if they could leave Illinois for a state that's willing to say, here, take whatever you want, that's the win the Bears are looking for. So, there's no time to be wasted lamenting the possibility of the Bears crossing state lines. That's the way the business is. And they try to hide that from us from time to time. They say football is family, which is baloney. Football is business, and it's good for business to say football is family. It is a gigantic business. And when it's time to get a new stadium built, if one state isn't willing to foot the bill and there's another state close by, that state is going to get the stadium.
I saw the terms and conditions of some of the terms and conditions of the Kansas City deal into Kansas. And I was reminded of Mike McDermott's line, Matt Damon in Rounders, the first line. Listen, here's the thing. If you can't spot the sucker at the table in the first 30 minutes, you are the sucker. And Kansas doesn't even get a suite with food paid for. They have to pay the Chiefs for the food after paying for this entire stadium, this $3 billion stadium. And it takes that kind of state to be a sucker because they think it'll do something for them. And every economic forecast is way overblown. Why do you think states haven't learned that, or don't they care?
I don't think they care. I think that they get drunk on the idea that we're going to have this crown jewel of a building, that we're going to bring in all of these big events, that we're going to have a Super Bowl, that we're going to have a Final Four, we're going to have this, we're going to have that, and they end up doing a bad deal. And also, when you're trying to pry the team away from its longtime home, I think you got to be willing to make a big splash. And they're, the politicians aren't spending their own money. And they come up with some new tax structure, bond issuance, whatever game is played that I don't want to understand because even trying to would put me to sleep. But I think that's the way they get these things done. And yeah, if the team is shrewd, and the Chiefs seem to be, you come out of it with a great deal. For example, I think they pay $7 million a year in rent, and all that money goes into a fund that will pay for future renovations to the stadium, and they keep all the revenue for every event that happens there. It really is the kind of deal that you look at and say, well, that's what happens when, number one, a state really wants a team, and number two, the politicians don't fear repercussions at the ballot box by giving it to them.
We're talking with Mike Florio. He's editor-in-chief of ProFootballTalk.com. We're talking football here on The Score.
Mike, Bears and Niners, Sunday Night Football should be a great game. The jockeying for seeding begins, and it's already started, and the Bears trying to get that one seed, as is San Francisco. But San Fran, the offense has been chugging along lately, but what do you know about George Kittle? Does he play, and how do the Bears stop that attack that Kyle Shanahan has out there?
Yeah, he got the mid to low ankle sprain on what he claims was a hip drop tackle on Monday night against the Colts. He had missed time earlier this year with a hamstring injury. The offense is different without him. I think he's kind of the the Fred Warner of the offense, just the guy that really stirs everything up, that gets everybody fired up. And they'll need him if they want to pull this thing off. Even with him or without him, the Bears are one of those teams that seem to have the magic touch right now. It makes for, and I'm not just saying this because I'm contractually obligated to via my employment with NBC, it makes for really the best game of the weekend when you look at the stakes. And it dawned on me last Wednesday when looking at the Seahawks Rams game, that epic overtime classic that was played 8 days ago. If the Seahawks win that game, the 49ers control their path to the 1 seed. And as crazy as that sounded, and you look at it and it's like, this is accurate. It shouldn't be accurate. This is accurate. The 49ers beat the Colts, the Bears, and then the Seahawks in week 18, and they're the number 1 seed. So there's so much riding on this at a time when 6 of the playoff spots are set in the NFC. Most of them are set in the AFC. It's all about jockeying on the playoff tree for positioning. There's some high drama in that game, and I like it because it's got some connective tissue to some big games between these teams in the 80s, the 84 NFC Championship, 88 postseason. Two teams that aren't really rivals, but kind of are. It just makes for what should be a great game on Sunday night.
And somebody's going to get a dress rehearsal for the Super Bowl because it'll be played in Levi Stadium. So why not look at it that way? Anything's possible. There is no power. It could go any which way. And I think that is much more exciting than the NFL Imagn. Sometimes it's good to have that bully, the Chiefs, something to shoot at. This league, this year, you can't eliminate anybody, and you give everybody, even the Bears in their first year under Ben Johnson, or Ben Jesus as we refer to him, we're giving him this opportunity, and the Bears have a chance. This is a great postseason field.
You make a great point too. The beanstalk's already been cut down for the giant, and so who's left? Where is the dominant team? Where is the team that will provide motivation for fans to root against? There really isn't one. We've been experiencing collectively Chiefs fatigue, and in one fell swoop, we don't have to worry about the Chiefs at all in the playoffs this year. And it's kind of a nice break from. And think about it. It was the Patriots who handed the baton to the Chiefs. How long it's been since we've truly felt that there was something wide open. Super Bowl 56 ended up being refreshing because the Bengals wiped out a 21-3 first half deficit to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. But for the most part, the Super Bowls in ever since Seahawks, maybe Broncos Panthers in 2015. And even then, it was kind of like the Broncos have been dominant. They've been in the Super Bowl 2 out of 3 years. It just feels like it's been a while since it's been a surprise, and it's been refreshing as to who the Super Bowl teams are.
And Mike, you mentioned as we were talking about Ben Johnson, so we saw the Lions eliminate themselves yesterday with all of those turnovers, but in a game where Minnesota barely played offense, the Vikings win by 13, and the Lions, minus Ben Johnson, are now out of the playoffs. How much of an effect do you think Ben not being there has on Detroit not making the playoffs?
I think it's massive. And I said this week that it was already a given that they miss Ben Johnson more than they'll ever admit. But if they lose this week in Minnesota on Christmas Day when the Vikings are playing for nothing other than paychecks and pride, they've got deeper problems than the absence of Ben Johnson. So Dan Campbell's already saying all the right things, but the words I'm reminded of the most, especially given the 8-8 so far season of the Lions, when they blew a 17-point lead against the 49ers in the NFC Championship 2 years ago, one of the first things he said at the press conference was, "I just told the guys this may have been our only shot." And he tried to walk it back the next day, but he was right. Now, regardless of whether it is their only shot, and if they make it back next year, the team's going to be very different than it was 2 seasons ago. The window opens quickly and it can close quickly. And it's so hard to get within vicinity of the summit because you've got 32 teams all trying to vie for the same territory. You become a team that everyone brings their A game when they're playing, and it becomes harder and harder, and you've got to stay focused, and you get extra wear and tear. It's it makes what the Patriots and the Chiefs did even more impressive, because not every team is built to be the top dog for an extended period of time. And we see the Lions already falling apart. And yeah, 5 turnovers from Jared Goff yesterday. I was reminded yesterday as to why the Rams tucked an extra first-round pick into the Matthew Stafford trade package to get rid of Jared Goff. Now, he's done some great things in Detroit, but what's he done without Ben Johnson? These are questions the Lions have to ask themselves in the offseason.
It may be recency bias here, but here's what Bears fans saw. They saw Keyshawn Nixon take a cheap shot at DJ Moore and not get flagged. They saw Keyshawn Nixon mug DJ Moore on that miracle and that great pass from that ended the Packers game. And Austin Booker played football and he sacked a quarterback and he got fined $10,000 for it. So I know they're going to protect quarterbacks to ridiculous extents, but has NFL officiating been an issue for you? Do you hear talk? Because they're talking to officials about a contract, and there's grumbling among fans. I don't know if it is at different levels. Can you help me with that?
Oh, it's one of the biggest subjects that we've been focusing on this season, and I can track our traffic at profootballtalk.com in real time. Whenever there is an interesting officiating story, it does well. Whenever we do a video that talks about officiating issues, it does well. And the pass interference, it's all over the map. We have interference called when it's not. We have interference missed when it is. There was a horrible missed call on Sunday night in the Ravens-Patriots game. Now, the Patriots went on to win. If the Patriots had lost that game, it would have been a huge deal. If DJ Moore hadn't caught that pass on Saturday night, would a flag have come out belatedly? It clearly was pass interference. He was riding him to the ground as he was trying to catch the ball. Why is it so difficult? And the problem is, after the NFC Championship 2018 season, Rams-Saints, when there was a ridiculous missed pass interference call that arguably decided who went to the Super Bowl, the league made pass interference calls and non-calls subject to replay review, and they screwed it up so badly the next year that they got rid of it. And I wonder sometimes whether and this goes back to the days when I was told I had to cut the grass, and I did it one time so badly they never asked me to do it again. I wonder if they intentionally screwed up replay review for pass interference in 2019 to the point where we got rid of it, we can't do it again. But they got to do something, because the officiating in real time is as bad as I've ever seen it. Now, I don't know that it's worse than ever, but it's because it always seems bad when it's bad, but I think it's as bad as it's ever been. And what complicates it nowadays is the fact that it no longer affects just the two teams who are playing. It affects all those people who are wagering millions in their hard-earned money at the urging of the NFL and the media that is getting paid a lot of money to do it, to come to the table and give some of your money when there's a bad call that affects the outcome of a wager. That leaves people very upset, and it makes people suspicious that something fishy is going on.
I was late, but we started with the Raiders talk. We're going to end it with the Raiders question. I was late for Professor Kingsfield's contracts class, but like 40 years ago, Al Davis just moved to L.A. because Al Davis just wanted to move to L.A., and there was nothing the NFL could do about it, and we're going to take the money, and he took $10 million from Irwindale just for having a meeting, and then he moved back to Oakland. He moved wherever he wanted. Have things changed enough? Could the Bears move wherever they wanted to, wherever the money was, and just pop back? Could another team move into Chicago and say, hey, we're the Chicago Cardinals again? And could that happen under current NFL rules and Roger Goodell's regime?
Well, there are so many antitrust violations that are baked into the way the NFL does business. Now, some of them are excused by federal law that allows the league to package all TV rights together and sell them to a network instead of the Cowboys doing their own deal and the Jaguars or some other smaller market team doing their own deal for a lot less than what the Cowboys would get. When it comes to the union, the CBA that they have with the players gives them an inherent antitrust exemption, but you need approval. Okay, I own a business. I wish I owned an NFL team, because that would mean I had the kind of money that would allow me to buy one. But I own a business, and I'm going to decide where my business will be located. Oh, wait, no, you've got 31 other partners in this loose association of oligarchs that must give their blessing to your ability to run your business however you see fit. And I think that's the problem. 24 owners have to approve of a move. Even if your lease is up and you can walk away and and you're contractually free and clear to do whatever you want to do. You need 24 total votes to allow you to do it. That's where Al Davis pushed back and won. And for a lot of the folks who are owners of NFL teams, they're willing to go along with the fact that there's a certain element of antitrust violation that sometimes you participate in and sometimes is participated in against you. So I think if the Bears really wanted to, they could. You mentioned the one outcome, though, that I think would be the best way to pay for a stadium and keep it in Illinois, bring a second team to the market, like Stan Kroenke did when he brought the Chargers to LA, like they have in New York. It becomes a lot easier to pay for your own workplace when you got two companies working out of the same building. That's what they should do, because I think Chicago is big enough to support a second team.
Yeah, but we're the smallest big town you've ever seen. Mike, thanks for your time. Appreciate it
Thanks,
today.
guys.
Be
Thanks,
well.
Mike.